Well, good afternoon, everybody. So, today I have the privilege of speaking with you about scholarships. So today's topic or lesson that we're going to be looking at for the first part of our meeting is looking at some scholarship information. And I find when we're doing scholarships for the first time, like anything in life, it's kind of just like an awkward experience because it's new. We're learning how to navigate through the system of scholarships, how to understand the application process for scholarships. So that's what I'm here for today, is to kind of help and offer an overview of scholarships, what they are, how do we apply. We're also going to look at the application process for scholarships, and also really importantly, how to avoid scams. Just earlier today, this is not an exaggeration, I was at the computers with a senior who received a scholarship saying, hey, you could be eligible for monies to help pay for college. All we need is your SAT scores. So if you haven't taken your SAT, we could give you a fee waiver. But it said nothing else about the scholarship itself. This kind of seemed weird. And so we clicked on the link that was fee waiver, and it just kind of went to a non-existent website. So I don't know if they were really blocked because we're looking at it from our school. But something about it just seemed all off. And one of the things we concluded is, where do you get your fee waivers for the SAT from? Your counselor. So how can this outside organization be claiming to give a fee waiver when they actually come from your school? So there was a lot of red flags along the way that at the end we determined that's probably a scam. That's probably somebody that very likely might be trying to get additional information to possibly take advantage. So we're going to be looking at tips on how to avoid scams, because this senior year you're going to probably be bombarded with information on scholarships and colleges, and it's really good to just have that key understanding on how to avoid those scams. And then most importantly, we want to start applying for scholarships, because once you apply to one scholarship, and you can hold me accountable to this, because I'll be with you throughout this whole journey this year with the Suhi, the U-Prep group. So I like to call you guys our preppies, because I don't know why, it's just my nickname, but it's out of love and kindness.
They've gotten emails addressed, yes.
Okay, so we're all on the same group. So myself and the other counselors will be with you for this whole senior year throughout this journey as we navigate college applications and scholarships. And the one thing I can say about scholarship applications, it may seem very demanding, and I realize, if anything, you are the group of students that are not only doing phenomenal in school, which I know that means you're studying a lot. You're dedicating a lot of time to your classes and your schoolwork. But on top of that, I realize that many of you are involved in extracurricular stuff and community service. So believe me, when I call you out and ask you, share with you opportunities for scholarships, I know it's something on top of everything that you're already doing. But trust me, once you fill out that one scholarship application, it's going to make it that much easier to apply to more. Because one of the things we're going to notice about scholarships is they tend to ask for the same information. Most scholarships will come from companies or organizations in the community, usually nonprofit, but sometimes it could be private companies as well, giving out money, like Cox Communications, for example. Every month, I'm going to email you an updated scholarship bulletin. And this is a perfect example, and I gave you each a copy if you don't already have one, of the different types of organizations. So when we look at that list, we'll look at number one. The company or the organization that's in charge of the first scholarship listed there is the Elks Lodge Teenager of the Month. So when you receive this bulletin, you'll check out, okay, so cool, this is the organization that's in charge of this. The amount of the scholarship that they're giving is $500. And it's always important to make a close note of the criteria. What are the requirements for the scholarship? Because you want applying for these and make sure that you're applying for ones that you're eligible for. So the criteria for this first one, it says open to seniors who have excelled academically. I just came from a meeting Tuesday evening. I went to go meet with the Elks Lodge and the person in charge of the scholarship. And they were sharing with the counselors and I that really who they're looking for, the kids that have received the scholarship in our district have been students that have a 4.0 GPA, but they do take 3.5 or higher. So 3.5 or higher still has a very good chance of getting this. But on top of those great grades, the kids that they've awarded scholarships, when they say are actively involved in school and community, basically you have been a student that's demonstrated leadership in some kind of activity, whether it's captain or co-captain of a sports team, maybe it's president or vice president of a club. And when they talk about being involved in your community, that's giving an average of at least 100 hours of community service. One of our students from Sweetwater High School will get this scholarship this year. So one of you in this room very likely will be. Last year it was Mr. Jose Guaro that was awarded the scholarship. And once you get this scholarship, you now go into a pool of students to be selected for an additional $1,000 scholarship that's awarded at the end of the year. The thing that's nice about this scholarship is that it's due the first Friday of every month, starting in September all the way through April. So I'm encouraging everybody here to apply for this one. Unless you genuinely feel that you don't meet the criteria, but from my knowledge and what I know of the Suhi preps, like you guys definitely are great candidates for this scholarship. So I would encourage everyone to fill this out, and the reason for that is because this is the foundation of what most scholarships are going to ask for. So if you take your time and fill this one out, it's very likely you're already going to have the bulk of everything done for future scholarships. So most scholarships will have an application. This one is a paper one that I can email you if you prefer to type it out. But a lot of scholarships are online now, so you just would go ahead and fill them out online. The essay for this scholarship is, I qualified for this award for several reasons. And this is where you tell the committee a little bit about yourself. They say you may include your family, history situation, community activities or achievements. 1 to 2 pages, double spaced, and they are looking at correct grammar. That topic where you tell them a little bit about yourself, your life experience, how that experience has influenced you and who you are and what your goals are, and what you plan to do in your future, is the format for the majority of scholarships. I'm not saying they're all going to ask for that exact topic, but once you have a really nice essay written, you could use that and just slightly edit it for other scholarships. This one asks for a counselor notes, so it's actually just a matter of your counselor writing some quick adjectives that describe you. Most other scholarships, I will say, will ask for a letter of recommendation. So all of you probably have seen that letter of recommendation information sheet. That sheet is really important, and what you want to start to compile in your profile for your information to have on hand is a letter of recommendation from your counselor, because you'll find most scholarships will ask for a letter of recommendation from your counselor and or a teacher or community member. So if in a portfolio you start to compile already a nicely written essay, did that essay topic kind of remind you of something else you've heard about? The UC prompt? Yes. So writing that essay, you're already going to have a platform for your UC prompts. You're already going to have a platform for your private school essays and for your scholarships. Mostly everything, probably slightly editing here and there, but mostly everything, exactly right. Now for your letters of rec. If you work now on requesting your letters of recommendation, and I know some of you have because I've already started writing them, is from your counselor. That letter of recommendation will be useful for colleges, private schools, and for scholarships. And I know on my part, and most of the counselors here, we save your letters of recommendation. So last year, a lot of my seniors, once they started applying to one, and then they saw other scholarships that they were eligible for, they would just combine them. Can I get a copy of that letter? And we would simply revise, to whom it may concern, and slightly adjust it if they needed specific information, but we already had it there. Teachers, if you really start asking your teachers for that letter of rec, many of them will give you an extra copy, or they will also say, hey, don't worry, I have it saved on my computer, just let me know when you need an extra copy of it. And it could be used for colleges as well as scholarships. So I kid you not, once you have all of that, let's say that, basically, how would we describe that? Like when you have all your checklists just already done, right? You just already have the core of it done and saved. Now when it comes time to applying for future scholarships, it's literally, I kid you not, a matter of sometimes just reprinting that essay, reprinting or asking for copies of those letters of rec, and yes, maybe filling out the general information. I've had students in the past that have looked at these scholarships, and after doing one, they're like, wow, it's so much easier now to do 2, 3. So they've come to me and said, can I get 3 letters, 4 letters, because I'm applying to these different scholarships. So definitely something that we want to keep in mind. So the scholarships, very legit scholarships, are going to come from companies and organizations. And these are a few of the criteria that we mentioned, right? So I kind of gone over it with using the example of specific scholarships. They'll look at your grades, and they'll look at your school involvement, community involvement. And some scholarships will look at family income as well, so that's one of the factors. Raise your hand if you received the email from me with the scholarship. I included scholarship tips and scams. I sent it to your Jupiter Grades email, and if you gave me your personal email last week, I included it there. If I don't have your personal email, you're going to be meeting with your counselor to do your senior credit check, and they're going to ask you if you want to include your email. Please make sure to give that to them, because on top of sending it to your Jupiter Grades, every month I'll send a copy of this information to your personal email if you provide that to me. So in that email, I included tips for getting ready for scholarships. So some of the tips that we're looking at are exactly like we talked about here, looking at the criteria. So when you know that a scholarship is looking for something specific like your, for example, the Quest for Scholarship, number 3. The criteria, who could read for me the criteria for this scholarship? Thank you.
Open to high school senior that has shown outstanding academic ability, top 5 to 10% graduating class, despite financial challenges. Apply it at www.firstcourse.org.
Perfect. So with this scholarship, this would be a great one for somebody that's top 5 to 10%. How do you figure this out? You'll look at your transcript, and you'll look at your ranking. You know when it has all the GPAs? And you look at your ranking, and then you just take your rank divided by the total group, and that'll give you your specific rank within your class of 500, 600 students. If you fall within that range, you know, hey, I have a really good chance of getting this scholarship. And if I've shown the success despite financial challenges. So in the application, you want to provide, not just this one, but any scholarship, you always want to provide specific examples, concrete examples that you can give them of how you qualify for that scholarship. If it's a scholarship that's looking for involvement in the community, then what kind of specific example would you give if they want to see somebody that's involved in the community? What is an example of something that you could give them to show them that you're involved in the community? Yes. Yes, your community service hours. And when they're looking for somebody that's really involved in the community, what I want each one of you to think about is not just the time that you take at that organization, but the time that you've took to prepare for that event. And I'll share with you guys an example. Last year I had a student apply for a scholarship that was heavily weighted on community service. And my student, being very modest and humble with their commitment to the community, said that they did about 60 hours because every Friday they would go and give a lesson at Arroyo Elementary on computer programming. When I wrote the letter of recommendation for the student, I talked about what an amazing contribution they were giving to their community, because they not only were doing that, but they founded that project. They implemented it, they worked with teachers on lesson plans, and they then would go teach those lesson plans every Friday to the students. So in this case, we were very lucky because it was a local scholarship and the person that was reading them called me and said, hey, this student sounds like they're doing a lot of great work, but it's not matching up. They said they only did like 50, 60 hours. They have to be doing way more work than that. Can you find out for sure? After I met with the student, I found out that they would meet with the teacher every week for like an hour to 2 hours. They'd work on the lesson plans an additional hour to 2 hours, and then they would go and volunteer and teach it. So now we're looking at an average of at least 5 hours of service to the community to make this event happen, times the full school year every Friday. So by the end of our calculations, we actually roughly calculated they had shy under 200 hours to this event. So my point being is, think about everything that you do. And this is definitely the time. I appreciate humbleness as a person. I think it's a valuable characteristic to have. But when it comes time to applying to colleges and scholarships, that is the time that you really don't have to be humble. You want to show and express all those amazing things that you're doing. Because I know so many of my students I work with are doing amazing things. And if anything, from my experience as a counselor, I feel that sometimes I'm like, wait, tell me more about what you're doing, because my students, I find, especially those ones that are so committed to all their activities, are sometimes the most humble. And believe me, it is a beautiful characteristic to have, and it's a wonderful quality to embody. But when it comes time to being chosen, these organizations, they don't know you. And this is your chance to let them know all those great things that you do, so that they can give you these scholarships that you're well deserving for. So on the first 3 tips, we know we're getting concrete examples, applying for scholarships that we are eligible for. And another key thing is to kind of think about what is the sponsors or the scholarship, what is their goal, and how can I meet that? So try to tailor your application to make sure that it's connecting to the goal of this organization. You always want to make sure that your applications are complete. If there's something that does not apply to you, please don't leave it blank, because a lot of times this even applies to a job application. If you leave something blank, it kind of tells the person maybe you just skipped over it on accident. So the best thing to do on any application, whether it's a scholarship or a job application, is exactly to write NA in capital N, capital A. That lets you know that it's not applicable to you. Neatness counts. A lot of scholarships nowadays are online. So when you come to some of them, when you come to the scholarship bulletin, you could either look at what number it is up here, or just simply on the bulletin itself. So for example, QuestBridge number 3, it's an online application. If some of you want to grab some additional info, you just come over to the number 3 file, and it'll tell you the info and where to go to register. The majority of scholarships nowadays are online, so it's easy for it to look nice and neat and tight. Some of them are occasionally like just a paper application, like this one, but I have them electronically. So if anybody ever wants to come see me so I can email you the electronic version, and that way you could type in your responses, then please feel welcome to come by and see me, and I could give you the electronic version as well. Now, if you're going to write it in, that is fine, but just make sure it's very, very neat, because it's kind of like that first impression that you give, always, in that application for it to stand out. Make sure that you pay attention to the deadlines. When you look at the scholarship bulletin, you're going to notice that some of them read deadline September 30th. What that means, whenever you read a deadline for a scholarship, is that they need to have your application that date. Some of them, on occasion, will even say the specific time that they need it by, because they won't take it any later. Now occasionally you'll come across ones that read postmarked. None of these for September are postmarked ones, but when it's a postmark, that means you could drop it off at the post office, and you know how you see those stamps on mails that shows when it went out? As long as it has that it was sent out by that date, even if they receive it after, then you're okay. So that's kind of for the postmarked option, but a lot of times it's a concrete deadline that we want to look at. Are there any questions so far about any of the information I've gone over for scholarships? Okay, so the process basically includes your application for the scholarship, the essay that we talked about. So an essay, as you guys have already noticed, is very familiar to the essay that's going to be used for scholarships, for college applications, for private schools, and the letters of recommendation. So I'm encouraging everyone to please fill out that recommendation information sheet if you haven't already, and be prepared to bring it back next Thursday. And I can make photocopies of it for you. Oh, I'll get you guys some. Some of you, thanks. Some of you have already met with your counselors. Raise your hand if you've already met with your counselor to go over your senior credit check. So those of you raise your hand if you haven't. I'm assuming that's everybody else. Okay, so your counselors are working on calling you in, but in your folder of senior information is letter of recommendation information sheet. Yeah.
How many letters from teachers do you recommend?
I recommend starting with two. Two of teachers, hopefully they have this school year, because you want it to be a current teacher, and a teacher that you feel could really speak to your character as a student in their class. So that quality of the character of the student. Once you fill this out completely, what I'm suggesting to my seniors is bring it back so we could photocopy it. That way you don't have to write it a bunch of times. And then you'll just give one copy to your counselor, you'll give a copy to those teachers, maybe even a community member, like somebody, maybe your club advisor, or somebody that you volunteer with in the community. Or your boss, exactly. Because some organizations will ask for it to be a community member, a teacher, or your counselor. Most recommendations, like the most you'll need is probably 3. The most. Normally it's just 1 to 2. And that normally, not always, is your counselor and a teacher. So I'm going to get some more copies of that for you. And I think a good thing for homework would be that if everybody could work between now and next Thursday to complete this, front and back. And I know later on we're going to have a lesson on letters of rec, I think, and things like that. But we could kind of get a head start since there's some scholarships that are coming up so that you could start completing your scholarship applications. Okay? Any questions so far? So we kind of went over the general foundation of a scholarship. So who can tell me what is the 3 main criteria that in general most scholarships are looking for? The 3 main things. Grades, GPA, community hours,
financial
need. Perfect. And what are the criteria usually required for applying? What do you normally have to turn in with a scholarship? Yes. Perfect. The basic info, the application, letters of record, and essay.
That's it?
That's normally the 3 main things that you will have. That's it.
Most of the ones over there, they're asking for the tax, like the tax return. How do you get it? How do you upload it?
So good question. Some scholarships, because it's on financial need, they want you to send in proof of your parents' income. So usually that proof comes in 2 different ways. One comes from a copy of your parents' taxes. So if they're asking it for right now, they want to know how much money your parents made when they did their taxes last April. So what you could do, and for this stuff, that's what I'm here for. That's why I'm your scholarship counselor for you. You could come by with the paper copy, and our copy machine is like super cool. It scans stuff. So we'll scan it, and I'll email it to you. And then when you have it emailed, then I know these little things make me so happy. I'm like, oh my god, this is so cool. So then you email it, and then, I know, I'm not techie at all. I am so these little things are things that bring me much happiness in life, especially when I can do them. So we photocopy it, and then you'll get it emailed, and then you could upload it.
There was one I remember doing was that for specific fee forms something. It was about the taxes, but it was form. I don't know.
W-2 form maybe. The W-2 form is paper that your parents will get, so you will get at the end of the year confirming how much income they make. The other thing that some scholarships may ask for is a picture. So some of my students, what they'll do is they come to me and we take a picture on the iPad and then email it to you, and then you upload it on your application. Yeah, some want a picture. So if you already have a picture electronically that you could save, then you just upload it like in an attachment. Scholarships, it's open information. It's available to all students and families, whether district-wide or nationwide. When it says no work, free money, no work involved, we take care of everything. It's just free money for you. Definitely trust your gut instinct again. Nothing comes totally free. There is work. You all just shared with me what are the requirements for a scholarship. So we know that there's some work entailed. So that could be also a red flag. Application fees. If there's anything that ever says, oh, there's just a little fee, but again, like something like we guarantee you a scholarship, please remember that doesn't sound good. With scholarships, it's free money. Honestly, they shouldn't even be charging you a penny. Another thing in addition to scholarships, and we're going to have a presentation down the road on financial aid, the free application for federal student aid. And unfortunately, there's websites online that are like, we will only charge you $30, $40, $50, $100 to fill out the FAFSA. And it breaks my heart that we have had students and families pay to fill it out when it's a free application for federal student aid. A few years ago, one of my students, you know that the mall, Old Time Mall, out in the Eastlake area, those little kiosks in the middle, there was a kiosk of people working there saying, we will only charge you $99 and we'll fill out this FAFSA and we guarantee that you'll get money. My student and the family paid that money to fill out a free application that they don't guarantee. This is funded through the universities and the government. So remember, there should never be any fees, like just walk away. Free seminars are also kind of a red flag to keep your eyes out. And if anything is P.O. Box. This was interesting to me when I was looking at this information. Because occasionally I do run into P.O. Boxes, but I know they're organizations that we've been working with for years. But if you come across a P.O. Box, like, oh, just send us all your info here, come by and bring it to me first so we could look into it before sending them any info. Just things to kind of be aware of. And resources. In your scholarship bulletin, I've included in the back legitimate. These are guaranteed websites that will provide you information on national scholarships. Every month, I'll provide you information on like local ones here in our district or in the county. But this, if you go to any one of these websites, you could create your own account. Like for example, FastWeb, and you fill out a survey of information. And pretty soon you're going to start receiving specific scholarships that you may be eligible for. You are competing on a national level, but again, once you fill out one scholarship, I think you're going to find that they all basically ask for the same thing. So in a nutshell, that's kind of navigating the scholarship application process. But I'm going to be here throughout that whole journey. I'm probably going to be bugging a lot of you in the room to fill this out. Especially when I come across scholarships that you might be a great candidate for. And how will I know that? Because when you meet with your counselor, you're going to let them know your future career plans. So some scholarships are based on what you want to study down the road. And some scholarships are just based on the GPA community service. So I will be contacting you.